Welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pizzette, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, joined as always by Don Pizzette. Don, how's it going?
It is going swell. Got an exciting week packed full of Microsoft and security news as always.
As always. It's
not,
always
not always just Microsoft. We got a little bit of Linux and
we try to keep it saucy.
No Apple news this week. That's nice.
Oh, that's good. And we're also joined by Daniel Lowry, also known as Profound Conqueror.
Yes.
That is his Wu-Tang Clan
That's
name.
my Wu-Tang moniker.
Daniel, how are you?
I'm doing really good. Apparently, I'm drinking 300 milligrams of natural caffeine, and apparently that's a lot.
Yeah, in some states that's known as lethal injection.
Yeah, so
So as I stroke out in the middle of the...
keep your eye on Daniel, and we'll see if he makes it through the episode.
when
before
my
his
face
heart
starts sagging
explodes.
on one side and I'm, having trouble.
Perfect. And we're also joined by Nick Tausek, who is the security research engineer at Swimlane. Nick, how you doing?
Doing well, thanks. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. And where are you located right now?
I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, although Swimlane is based out of the Denver Boulder area in Colorado.
But these days, you can be anywhere.
Exactly, especially this past year.
What is Las Vegas like right now? I mean, I just see like tumbleweeds going across the strip in my head.
No, it's busy. It's very busy. Tourists are back.
Drunk sorority girls are rolling across the street.
Pretty much,
Well,
yeah.
One way.
Okay. Are they throwing up in their masks?
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, it's encouraged to pull it down before vomiting,
Oh,
but it's
but,
not mandatory.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's against CDC guidelines. We're not going to say that is official, but let's go ahead and jump right in today and get to know Nick in our first segment, Rapid Fire Questions.
Who do you work for?
What's new?
Who are you?
What's happening?
What's wrong with you?
All right, Nick, in this segment, we are going to run through some rapid-fire questions. You'll have approximately 1 minute to answer each question. If you take too long, Peter will buzz you. Like that. And then we'll move on to the next question, whether you like it or not. So we're going to kick things off. Peter's got our first question.
This is the most aggressive rapid fire questions we've done.
By
so
the
far.
way, we have never moved on from anyone ever.
Yeah, it's not
It can happen.
I'm too nice to press the buzzer.
This could be the day.
This could be it.
So, Nick, the first question is, about a year ago, we actually had Cody Cornell, who was the CEO, and actually we're going to talk about that in a little bit. He was the CEO, so he kind of told us about Swimlane, but for those that don't remember a year ago or our new listeners, can you tell us a little bit about the company?
Sure. So Swimlane is a leader in the security orchestration, automation, and response, or SOAR space. What we do is we build an application called Swimlane, which enables analysts to be able to respond to security operations center type alerts much more quickly, efficiently, and utilizing automation, orchestration, and response. So doing that, we can greatly increase the amount of workload and the amount of productivity an analyst can accomplish in a single shift, as well as increase the accuracy and increase the abilities of those analysts through using the product.
All right, now your title is Security Research Engineer. Now, I know what a security researcher is, and I know what a security engineer is, but what is a security research engineer?
Somewhere in between the two, really. So what I do is I do security research. I also do engineering in the sense of engineering applications and content within the Swimlane platform that enables analysts to do the aforementioned things. So I help develop a lot of our content that's used in multiple customer environments. I help kind of develop some of our more cutting edge use cases to try to bring in new technologies that we may be exploring.
Wow, you sound really smart.
I try.
Smarter than me.
That's why we have him on.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff. Let's talk about where Swimlane fits for your clients. Is that something that maybe is more geared to identifying threats, or it's a part of incident response? Where does this thing actually plug in?
So being a SOAR platform, we try to integrate with as many parts of the sort of security chain as possible. Whether that means we're ingesting alerts directly from your mail gateway or your SIM, triaging those alerts, automating research around those alerts and bringing back the results of those research for analysts, or we're enabling the incident response process as well. Like, for example, being able to take IP addresses that you've determined were part of a DDoS attack against your organization and automatically block them to help prevent them from coming back against you. Or being able to automatically leverage other IOCs such as email addresses or domains or anything like that and send those to the appropriate devices for blocking.
Yeah, I've had a lot of women block me, so I know what that's like.
They're using Swimlane.
We can automate that now, and they don't even have to see you.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
It's really efficient.
If they get AI, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
All right. So my question is, I looked down your background as I do, and noticed you actually like worked in web dev for a while, and then DevOps. So how did those skill sets help you now on the security side?
Those have actually been really helpful for me in both being an effective. So let me just get into my background really quickly. I was a security analyst for about 8 years before I took this job at Swimlane. So I was in the SOC doing SOC analyst type work, but one of the things that I kind of specialized in my SOC was developing tools and procedures that made us more effective, which is kind of how I leveraged my experience into this position in Swimlane. What I did was help take, for example, reports that were coming out of our SIM that had 3 or 4 million lines in them, and finding ways to aggregate and make these reports actionable, enrich the reports, and do that kind of stuff. And I fell back a lot on my web dev experience and some of my scripting experience from that time to be able to enable those solutions.
That's a tale as old as time. You're just like, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Yeah.
Let's automate
Exactly.
it.
Swimlane is completely written in HTML. So.
Yes.
CSS.
And you dropped a couple of things that you can kind of automate. You mentioned like what I think of, which is, hey, if you detect an attack, throw in some firewall rules real quick to block that, so now they're not able to access the network. Or you mentioned fired off emails. What are some other examples of stuff you'd automate?
Sure. So other types of things we can automate would be looking for malicious domains that might be squatting and trying to duplicate your domain. So that's one that I developed over here at Swimlane. That what it does is it downloads a list of domains that were registered every day. Or you could set it up to work with CertStream or something like that, and compares those domains to see if they look like your domains. Like if Microsoft had the zeros or O's replaced by zeros, or if there was a Russian character for an I instead of an English character.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it'll try to detect those, and then it'll download that page every day and update you if the content changes of it to see if it suddenly becomes malicious.
You see, I'd have to totally Google that regex, because that's a hard one.
Yeah. There's a few. I guess I'm done with that one.
No, go ahead.
Way to go, Peter.
Testing the button.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is some regular expression work in there, and there's also this really great Python package called Confusables that helps you identify letters and characters that look like each other, even multiple
That's
characters
cool.
down to one. Yeah.
I mean, with all the phishing attempts that are out there, people are going to try and mock up your login page or whatever to capture those credentials. So it's neat that you kind of catch that at the DNS level.
I have one more last question. I asked about your background, but I'm curious about your physical background. So I see the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. What is the dinosaur?
That is Godzilla.
Oh, that's just Godzilla. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
That's crazy. I had a dream about Godzilla last night.
And now he's here.
Literally.
Was it an appropriate dream?
Yeah, he was fighting Mechagodzilla, but Mechagodzilla had a human head. It was weird.
I feel like we're going to move on quick.
Where's that buzzer?
All right.
Yeah, where's that?
Where's the sensor?
And then Don showed up. Yeah, real weird.
All right, so let's move on to our next segment here this week, which is Science and Tech News.
Stay tuned for Science and Technology. And now, back to the anchor desk.
Thank you. So our article today that we're looking at is from darkreading.com, and the reason we're looking at it is because Nick wrote it. So hopefully he can have some insight here. But the headline here is "No STEM, No Problem: How to Close the Security Workforce Gap." And I know this is something we've talked about a million times here. Is finding good people, training them up. What is that process? Do you get people that are in security and train them to your specific needs? Do you get people that are in other IT fields and try to train them up on security? So what's your take on this? If people have no STEM background, how can you close that gap?
So STEM background is kind of a tricky nomenclature to begin with, I think. if you have no STEM background at all, it can be very difficult to get into something as complicated as like SOC analysis. But even if you have a minor background in the technology part of STEM, right, you don't necessarily need the science, engineering, and math. If you're good with computers, or you're good with networking, or you're good at regular expressions, or you're good at scripting, or any of these types of skills can easily be leveraged to make you into a really useful asset in any SOC. The training, as far as getting you up to speed on what threats look like, to me, that's the kind of thing that formal education isn't really doing a great job at anyway, because our industry changes at light speed. By the time you get your certification based on a curriculum that's probably 2 years old, it's going to be hard to leverage that into real world threat detection, right? So I think that focusing on people who maybe don't have the traditional computer science background, or the traditional strictly security background, but do have experience with technology in general, or have a lot of experience with investigative disciplines, can easily leverage those skill sets into a career in the security technology space.
I've got a good question that kind of brings into this, because I get this all the time from people reaching out to me on social media, and they're like, which is the best certification for me to get into cybersecurity? Should I go down this path? Should I go to that path? Which is the better one? And then you've got a lot of people now. I just was listening to an NSA hacker talk about how they've removed a requirement for you to have a background, like a formal background, even certifications in technology. Just show that you have some experience in some way, shape, or form, and they'll start to look at you, because we have such a huge gap in the skills that we need to fill those. What's your take on that? What do you think about that kind of idea?
So I think that's great, in a word. But the reason is, one, I got my start as a non-traditional applicant, because I started doing cybersecurity and analysis in 2010. So things were still kind of in the early days back then. We didn't have things like security degrees that you could just go out and get. SANS existed, but courses cost a third of what they do now, and there weren't as many of them.
I thought you were going to say it cost a third of your yearly salary.
That too.
It could be.
But back in the day, right, back when we were first starting to throw people at this security problem, we didn't have these educated experts that really knew the field. We were throwing people who were good at tech, who were creative, and who knew how to problem solve at the problem, and figuring out who was really well suited for it, or who could be better put in a different position. And I think that approach, combined with what you said your contact at the NSA was doing, such as like having people submit like a portfolio of showing their skills, maybe show me what you've got up on GitHub, show me what other work you've done, show me a web page you've designed. Those types of things can really help you get an idea of someone's technical skill, as well as the creativity that they can bring into your team.
Now, one nice thing about certifications or a degree program, though, is they kind of tell you what to learn. Here's this roadmap, here's all these things, and they are fairly good at giving you a broad coverage of areas. But if you're going to go it alone, if you're just, I'm not going to go the college route, I'm not going to go the cert route, I just want to learn the skills, how do you figure out what to focus on? Like, what should be the key things people are trying to learn?
So I think if I were to make that decision, and I'm sorry, my light just went out for some reason. I don't know if anyone noticed that, but I think the most important skills to learn are, as strange as it sounds, writing. If you're going to be working in a SOC or working in any kind of security analysis or incident response capability, your writing skills have to be on point, or you will sink quickly, because that can be really hard to learn really quickly. To be able to write a comprehensive, cohesive incident report. So practice that, practice your documentation of events that have happened, so that you can do, I remember at some of my jobs, we used to actually have people write up an incident report as part of the interview process and see how good it came out. Another thing I think is really useful is scripting, whichever scripting language you choose, be it Ruby, Python, even Bash. Being able to do basic automation of your processes, IP lookups, email blocking, whatever it is, that's going to help set you apart really quickly when you do land a position, or if you can demonstrate that you have those skills.
All right, well, check out that article at darkreading.com, and if you disagree with Nick, you can leave a comment there, not on our website. And I just got to say, Nick, I love your profile, your avatar on that. You've got the picture with the lasers in the background. That's like 80s. I have that photo as one of my school photos.
Oh yeah.
From 6th grade, I think, or 5th grade, and it was with an Apple II GS because we had got this technology
wow.
grant that year.
Nice.
And so they put the laser background and had the Apple II GS, and it was
Futuristic.
Oh,
it's
man.
fantastic. Because
Yeah.
that picture, that background's making a big comeback, so I'm excited about that. All right, our next wait, was that a real photo? That one, or I mean, you,
I did
you
in
doctored
Photoshop.
that. Okay,
I
just
did
wanna
in
make sure.
Photoshop.
I want to make sure that wasn't like Sears Portrait Studio or something. So if they're bringing that back, I'm in. All right, let's go ahead and look back. Normally, we let you go at this point, Nick, but we actually want to talk with you about one more article here. So it's something we touched on last week. So it is Deja News.
Deja.
News.
All right, so this article comes to us from Vice.com on Motherboard. The hacker who archived Parler explains how she did it and what comes next. And so we were talking last week, I guess, about how AWS had taken down Parler or given them a notice that they're not going to be providing services after a certain time, and that time came and passed. But before that happened, I guess, was it before that happened, it had to be, that someone was able to scrape that down?
Yeah, and I definitely, right off the bat, I want to address the fact that, last week I cast a little doubt on this article because you had this unknown security researcher, somebody nobody's ever heard of, coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, I've scraped 80 terabytes or 70 terabytes of data," and so it was a little suspicious. No information had been shared. So now some more details have come out, and I do feel that the security researcher in this case, or whatever she actually is title wise, she is a little bit overstating what's been done. But when she heard that this service was going to be taken down off of AWS, she knew that she had about 24 hours to try and get whatever she could. And so where she put her work in, and this is impressive stuff, so it's not like a fake or anything, but she figured out a way through a jailbroken iPad to look at the Parler app and figure out how it was talking to the API servers back on Parler's side. And once she had that way to communicate with the API, she found out that she could iterate through URLs, that every post on Parler was given a sequential number assigned to it. And once she had that, she was able to crawl through and see it all, right? That's the work she did. That's impressive work. But then where I cast out was, who could possibly harvest that much data in that short a time? Well, the short story is she didn't. She actually got a lot of help from an Internet Archive project, which their name is eluding me right now. But
The archive team, I believe.
Oh, the archive team. That's it. Thank you, Nick.
Yep.
And so working together, they were all able to take those URLs. So she was generating the URL list, and then they were all able to go and scrape it. And within that 24-hour period, they were able to lift, it's something like 90% of the content off of Parler, which was all flagged as public. And so they actually have been able to exfiltrate all that data. I don't know if exfiltrate's the right word, because it's technically
Right,
they
they
were
didn't.
public posts.
Yeah.
Right.
Download, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scrape.
So they've archived it.
Yeah.
Is the archive team. So they were able to actually get it. Now, how they can use that data is somewhat up for debate, and the Vice article, I think, is a little bit biased on this one, but they did actually do it. So that's kind of our follow-up on that. Nick, what do you have thought-wise on an activity like this? Is this a good thing, a bad thing? Like, should people be doing this?
It's a complicated thing, of course. In the event of Parler, of course, I think, most people are going to agree that allowing calls for violence against or calls for overthrowing the government are a step too far. Anytime you start to have corporations or governments, first off, saying, here's what you can and can't say, that's a loaded issue. And then you have people trying to document this and potentially dox people who have been engaging in extremist activity. People's personal beliefs aside, I think that it certainly sets an interesting precedent. There is a long tradition of doxing people in the extremist community. There's a reason the Klan wears hoods, right? They don't want their faces known.
Right.
So one of the really interesting things to me about this Parler archive project was that Parler did not delete anything. They left it all accessible publicly. They set a deleted flag, like a bit on their database that said the post was deleted, but if you had the URL, you could still get to it. So even after the Capitol siege and people started deleting the evidence, it still stayed up. So it's a really interesting project. I think it definitely brings up some civil liberties issues. It brings up some issues about what you can ethically do with information. And I think that we're going to see this type of attack, since it wasn't really an attack on the website.
They didn't really
yeah,
break
it was
any
more
laws by
discovery,
scraping
right?
this,
Discovery of a flaw in the website, basically. But I think we're going to see people on the other side, of course, start to try to weaponize this kind of like, well, we're going to take your social media posts and we're going to try to weaponize that against you type of activity in retaliation.
Well, here's where this gets really sticky, because I don't think she did anything illegal. Like, technically, these were public URLs that she gathered, and then they downloaded them. Like, I'm sure they might have violated terms of service or something like that, but otherwise, it's not really like a blatantly illegal activity.
Yeah, she's been kicked off Parler.
But, there you go. But, one thing that she did do, though, is break chain of custody. Right? Like any of the data that her and the team have secured is not admissible in court. So it can't be used to prosecute these people. And honestly, the FBI or whoever has the ability to do I'm sure they can go to Amazon with a subpoena and get this information and actually maintain that chain of custody. So really the only thing this can be used for is doxing. And doxing is problematic. Right, especially when they get the wrong person. Right, remember? What was it? The Olympic Park bombing, right in Georgia.
That guy got hammered.
He got roasted. The internet identified him as being this. Look, he's got a backpack.
Yeah,
and then you find out that it wasn't. But his life was ruined for a period of several years.
Well, and that's why you want to let law enforcement enforce the law and not take it into our own hands. We don't want to live by mob rule.
Yeah,
of course. I think few people do. I think it's.
I don't.
Yeah, but I think it's also important to recognize that traditionally law enforcement has been reluctant to prosecute some of these extremists, and people do have a legitimate concern with the action that may be taken if they just say, for example, report this information to the FBI. In this case, the Capitol storming, yes, they are actually taking action against it. But like when it comes to a lot of other attacks that have happened, by right-wing extremists over the past several decades, that has been a pretty sticky issue for people to try to get justice.
Well, you brought up a point, Don, that I'm curious about. You said, the FBI could go right to AWS and say, hey, we want this. But in most cases, obviously with Parler, maybe it's a special case and Amazon says, hey, let's hold on to that. But if I say, I'm taking down my website, I mean, that archive doesn't sit there at AWS still for a period of time.
And actually, AWS has a data destruction process. So like if Parler had done this on their own, if they had said, nope, we're going to move off AWS and shut down, that data could have been destroyed and Amazon may not have been able to recover that. But because there was, and this is why Amazon did a 24-hour notice. They said, hey, in 24 hours, we're going to pull the plug, which I'm certain was
I heard that Parler is suing them because they broke their SLA with them, that they had to give them 30 days notice for if they were going to shut them down for breaking or violating terms of service.
24 hours is plenty of time to give notice to the authorities to say, you can get a subpoena in less than 24 hours. Easy.
Yes, if anyone would like to call us, here's our number. And
that seems to be what that was. This whole event really highlighted a lot of what we can do with technology these days. And good and bad, right? So, due to all the various video footage and other things, they're able to identify every person who is involved in that riot, and they are tracking each of them down. They were not using facial recognition, which we've been reading about for years now, proliferating all over the place and violating privacy. But at the end of the day, the FBI is posting people's pictures on the website and saying, hey, anybody know this person?
Do you know this guy?
You got to wear your Juggalo face paint if you're going to go out riding.
Exactly.
Interestingly, on the facial recognition topic, they were actually on the day of the Capitol attack. They were using facial recognition in airports. They were walking around with handheld cameras, scanning people getting onto airplanes, even here in Vegas.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So I don't know whose directive that was, but that was something that actually happened on that day. But it's interesting to me that they haven't been using it then to identify people after the fact, just to prevent people from getting on airplanes. So I guess we'll see what comes of that in the future.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this podcast, you're listening to it on Thursday, the day after the inauguration. So for us, though, that's tomorrow, and it should be exciting times.
Fingers crossed the world still exists on Thursday to post this. I did read, speaking of technology to track people, I did read today that 2 people have been arrested. They were pretty easy to track because their ankle bracelets, their ankle monitors, that they wore to the protest.
Yeah.
Technology even cannot fix stupid. There's no cure.
That was another thing they were saying about the data on Parler. Apparently, when you upload an image to Facebook or Twitter or Imager or one of those sites, they strip all the metadata off of it.
Yep.
And Parler didn't, so they all had their GPS data still on the photos.
Yep. Pretty interesting that they chose not to do that, given that they build themselves as the most secure social networking site in the world.
Obviously,
that was not
proven true.
Yeah.
The marketing team was involved in that phrase. All right, so Nick, I'm curious if people want to learn more about Swimlane, what's the best way for them to do that?
Swimlane.com is a great resource. If you're curious about whether any of your existing infrastructure might play nice with Swimlane, like whether we've already got integrations built out for it, apphub.swimlane.com is another great resource to see what products we've already built out solutions for. We've also got a couple webinars coming up. We've got one in February about phishing, and that'll be listed up on our website, swimlane.com as well. And yeah, we do appearances normally at trade shows and things like that, but we'll see what happens in 2021. Hope to see some of you all in person at some point, but yeah, until then, let's interact on the web.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also, I mentioned Cody earlier, who's someone we had on about a year ago, but you said there's been some change in the management there?
Yes, James Breer is our new CEO. He most recently was the CEO of Veriflow, which was sold to VMware in 2019. And he served as CEO for Procera as well before that, as well as a couple other companies such as Tasman Networks and Force 10 Networks before that. He's got a lot of
that
experience.
Sounds like something I take for like high blood pressure.
It might be.
Yeah,
but yeah, he has a lot of CEO experience. We're really excited about having him on the team. He's going to help shape our future plans as the organization has grown.
But Cody's still there.
Cody's still there. He's still a very influential member of our management team. I speak with him weekly personally, and he's still very dialed into what's happening in the company and our path forward.
Well, tell Cody we said hi, and love to have him back on again anytime. And you as well, Nick. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
Thanks so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Yep. And stay tuned, everybody. We're going to come back with a little bit more news right after this quick break.
Do you know what's better than being an IT Pro TV member? Being a member for free. Hi, I'm Don Pizzette, co-founder and edutainer here at IT Pro TV. Once you sign up for an IT Pro TV personal membership subscription, you'll automatically be part of our referral program. Then all you have to do is share your personal referral link and code with your friends and colleagues. Every time one signs up, you get money off your subscription. Sign up enough and your membership is free. That's right, access to all your favorite IT training, totally free. Kind of feels like stealing, doesn't it? Check out the link below to learn how to get your code and start sharing today.
All right, welcome back to Technado with Don Pizzette, and thank you so much to Nick for joining us from Swimlane. And we have a lot of news to get to, as Don mentioned, a lot of security, a lot of Microsoft. But this first article is neither.
I don't know why I didn't think of it. We totally missed the opportunity to do like a whole Dr. Nick thing. You know, hey everybody!
I wonder if he'd be on board with that.
That's right.
Next time.
We'll start calling him Dr. Nick from now on.
Yeah. Honorary doctorate. It's honorary. All right, our first article is from tomshardware.com. LG's huge 40-inch monitor is first to feature Thunderbolt 4. And now, is this a CES announcement? Because I know there was like virtual CES last week.
This is from virtual CES, yeah. You know, LG, after Apple stopped making their studio monitors, LG's kind of stepped in as being the high-end monitor company. You know, no monitor is too big, no price is too high. They are able to make it. So they released a new one. It's a 40-inch curved monitor, so it's pretty sweet. They keep changing whether it's labeled for gaming versus design and art, so maybe it kind of crosses both. It's a weird monitor. It's a weird resolution. It's a weird refresh rate. There's a lot of weird stuff about it, but what's important is that it is a Thunderbolt 4 monitor, so it's the first one that's on the market. We're about to start seeing Thunderbolt 4 stuff coming out, and if you don't remember why Thunderbolt 4 is important, the main reason is USB-C and Thunderbolt 3 is a nightmare of mixed up standards. When you see a USB-C port on something, you have no idea what it's capable of. Can it do video? Is it going to charge? Is it this many watts? What speed is it? Who the hell knows? Like, USB-C fixed nothing except for your cable being upside down.
It makes rotisserie chicken.
Yeah, it probably could. Don't lick the USB-C port. But Thunderbolt 4 and whatever new connector they attach to it, which oddly enough is still USB-C, but we'll see if they change that. But is supposed to fix all that by giving us a much more consistent standard. And so here is our first device coming out with it. Exciting times.
Now, Don, it's supposed to be like wicked fast, though, right? It was like, what was it, 40
gigabit.
Gigabit, that's right.
Yep.
40 gigabits.
Yep, 40 gigabit. Thunderbolt 3 was able to do 20 gigabits per second. This goes up to 40, which is nice, extra speed. For storage devices, super important, but if you're doing multiple monitors, if you're doing 4K resolutions, 8K resolutions, you're going to need that extra bandwidth for that. So that's why we're seeing it on a monitor first. We'll see it trickle out to other devices down the road.
Don, I think we owe it to our viewers to get some in here and let me test it out.
You know what I've always said? If you're going to get a curved monitor, you have to get enough to make a complete circle.
Oh, yeah.
That would be awesome. You have to actually go under the monitors.
Yeah, you get like 5 of them.
Yeah.
We've got the desk for it right
Yeah,
here.
and if we just had like a chair that rose up out of the floor,
Perfect.
then you're going.
Or lowered down from the ceiling.
Right.
Well, did you see the price tag, Daniel?
Money is no
some-
object.
Listen,
this is Technado.
can you put a price on helping our viewers understand whether or not they need a huge monitor?
Let's ask our sponsor if they can help us out.
No, don't we have like sweet internet cash from all the likes and follows and
This brought to you by.
That's right.
You know, Don, it's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's
That's
just sad.
It is $2,100 American dollars.
Oh.
So
Well, the dollar's losing value.
so in terms of
basically-
making a circle, I don't know.
Your monitor will cost more than your computer unless it's a Mac.
Unless it's the Mac with
No
the
one
wheel.
beats Mac on prices.
I got the wheel kit for the Mac, and
That doesn't mean what normally it means.
how am I supposed to get the cheese out of this Mac?
Yeah.
All right, our next article here.
Moving on.
Yeah. Enough with that.
Did you have more to say about that $2,100
No.
curved?
We're just going to get them and let you watch us use them.
Fair enough. All
He
right.
won't be able to watch us because it's so big. If you'd be like hidden behind the...
you? These monitors are amazing.
Are you done?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Our next article is from theverge.com.
You're up.
Windows 10X is now Microsoft's true answer to Chrome OS.
Anytime now, Pete.
A new lightweight version of Windows to take on Chromebooks.
You know, it feels like this time last year that we were
Right.
talking about Windows 10X. Of course,
1010.
it was, yeah. And we
Windows
were
1010.
making fun of the name a little bit.
Brings back
and
memories.
It's actually changed a lot. So if you listened to the podcast a year ago, we were talking about this new operating system from Microsoft called Windows 10X, which was a special version of Windows 10 designed for devices with 2 screens. Now, I don't just mean 2 monitors on a desktop. I mean like a folding device, the Microsoft Duo, Neo, all those crazy things. The pandemic killed everything. And so all of those multi-screen devices, well, the Android one still came out. Was that the Neo or the Duo? I think it was the
don't
Duo.
remember. It got coronavirus and died.
Yeah, well, that one came out, but the other one that was supposed to actually run Windows, the one that I thought would be kind of neat, that one got delayed. And so in the meantime, Microsoft pivoted, and Windows 10X has now changed into what is their equivalent of Chrome OS. So it's like a very light version of Windows 10 that's designed to run on low-end hardware. So instead of buying a Chromebook in the near future, you might be buying a Windows 10X book.
Well, we saw the market, too, for it this year when you see, all the families that maybe didn't have a computer at home and all of a sudden you've got to do school from home for kids and things like that. So, the run on Chromebooks was pretty big, and Microsoft saying, hey, we can get into that market, too.
And, webcams sold out instantly.
Yeah.
Once everybody started doing work from home and school from home. Chromebooks, though, you could still get them. And they didn't cost that much more than a webcam.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for Microsoft to be in that space, and looks like they're doing it.
So, Don, what would you say is the biggest, advantage of going with something like Windows 10X versus Chrome OS?
So, Chrome OS really is just Chrome. It's the web browser. And so you're limited to web pages and web-based applications or progressive web apps, PWAs, right? So that's all you can run on a Chromebook, unless you start messing around with the Linux stuff, the Crouton subsystem, which normal people can't do, right?
Plus, it's a pain.
Yeah, so for normal people, it is just going to run a web browser, which, again, like to Peter's point, that's enough for most people.
Yep.
But on a device that's running Windows 10X, you can run Windows apps, right?
Oh,
not
that's nice.
not a bunch at the same time.
So, Don, this kind of reminds me of like the Windows RT that they came out with when they had the 2 versions of the Surface. Is this different than that? Like, can you multitask still?
It's a bit different, right? Windows RT's big push was the ARM processor support, which meant limited applications, but it could still run Microsoft Office, right? It had that going for it. With Windows 10X, they're actually pushing for ARM and Intel compatibility, so you'll kind of see both. But it's more about just not having a fixed screen size, like being able to have application stuff adapt. And I've had Android devices and things that supported multiple screen sizes, and the apps would always crash when you change the screen size. So Microsoft's trying to work all that out. That's really what 10X's focus was originally. Now it must just be focused on low resource consumption.
Well, in these days, too, you wouldn't really even need to worry about running Office because you're probably just running Office 365.
Yeah, the web stuff. The progressive web apps in general and any kind of web-based software really eliminates the need for anything beyond a browser. That's why Chromebooks have been so effective. Hey, Larry, you still use a Chromebook at home, don't you?
Yeah, my wife uses them, and anytime someone's like, "Hey, I'm looking to get a new laptop or something," I typically push them toward a Chromebook because most people, that's all they really need, and they're super cheap. So it's almost a consumable at this point where it's broken, it's a piece of junk now. Throw it away, go get another one. You know?
Yeah.
Just give it right to the sea turtles. They're right in the ocean. By the way, I thought that the webcam sold out because everyone started making an OnlyFans once they lost their jobs. Is that not?
Maybe. There is an economy there.
There is true.
Either that or...
What was the OnlyFans roast me? Did you see
God,
those?
no.
Yeah, they're rough. People are like, "Hey, roast me."
By the way, the only reason that's
They will, by the way. If you ask someone to roast them, you put that on.
that
public forum.
Reddit channel is fantastic.
Get prepared.
The only reason that's in my browser history is because I thought it was all about like ceiling fans and all kinds of
OnlyFans.
things.
I was like, I really like the Detroit Red Wings. I should be on that website.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next article before this goes too far.
Before this goes too far.
And this one is from Phoronix, and we talked about at the end of the year last year how much they make fun of me for saying acronyms wrong and not knowing, like, is this one that you spell out or is this one that you say as a word? And I feel like Don put this headline in here just to test me, and I have not asked for help.
See how far you've come.
Because I'm going to see what I can do here. So, because I remember the first time I saw this, even the computer name, System D, I was like, System? No? All right, System D 248 to allow unlocking encrypted volumes via TPM2, FIDO2, PKCS number 11 hardware.
Yes. You
Really?
said all
You
of
did
that
it well.
correct.
Wow.
Yep.
I was not sure about, like, PKCS
is it
hashtag
Pix?
11,
Pix Octothorpe.
# 11 hardware.
All right, so we all know that encrypting your hard drive is important, especially on a mobile device like a laptop. If it gets stolen, you want to know your data is safe. In the Windows world, you have BitLocker. In the Apple world, you have File Vault. Both technologies really good at encrypting the hard drive. On Linux, you typically have Lux, which, Danny, do you remember what Lux stands for?
Oh man,
Yeah, put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Either way, it's an encryption standard for encrypting the entire hard drive, or at least a volume that has all your data on it, and it does a good job, just as good a job as BitLocker or File Vault. But one thing that Lux didn't have was that anytime you booted your computer to unlock a Lux volume, you had to either type in a key or have the key stored on an unencrypted volume somewhere on your disk.
Lux is Linux Unified Key Setup.
I was waiting. I wasn't going to interrupt him, but I was going to look smart.
Well, it was pertinent. He was going. He was
All
talking
right,
about key.
yeah.
It worked.
Well, neither solution was great. Nobody wants to type in some long decryption key every time they log in addition to a username and password. Like, the people just don't want to deal with that. Also, if you store the key unencrypted somewhere on the disk, it kind of defeats the whole purpose. That was a problem.
What are you trying to hide, Don?
Just anything, I suppose. My OnlyFans site. So, so one thing that File Vault and BitLocker really had going for them was that they could store the key in the Trusted Platform module, or the TPM, on your motherboard. So as long as the hard drive was being booted attached to your motherboard, then you didn't have to punch in the key. Lux is finally getting that functionality. You'll be able to store the key in your TPM, which really, I mean, that's a game changer to me. That I have been resistant to wanting to use Lux because of that key issue and how you store it. This solves that problem.
Welcome to the big show, Lux. Glad to have you finally.
Yeah, and I think every major distro supports Lux. Red Hat Enterprise Linux does, Ubuntu does, Debian. So it's across the board. The real question here is whether or not you have System D248. It'll take a little while for that version to push out. And then whether you've got a TPM version 2, because this does not work on the original TPMs.
And working with your YubiKey now, I know you're a huge YubiKey fan, so it just starts to integrate your whole life there, Don. You've got to be really enjoying this.
It is. It's a lot less painful. Peter.
Yeah.
You've got a Mac.
Yeah. Good morning. What?
your Mac is encrypted, right?
I'm told it is.
See? So is it a pain point for you?
No.
You don't even notice, right? So encryption has finally reached that standpoint where it's so painless to do, and that's where we need our security technologies to be.
Even Peter can do it.
Well, I mean, that's the age-old argument was, should we make users better at doing security, or should we just make more inherently secure systems? And making inherently secure systems is the better lift, because users can't really, I mean, not that you shouldn't do user security awareness. It's always good to add more security.
You shouldn't rely on it.
But you have to give them something so painless, as to Don's point, that it just is easy for them to do so that they can comply.
And you take something like MFA, right? Which I love it. I know it serves a great purpose. I use the heck out of it. But now, in my Authenticator app, I just hit my 50th token. So, 50 different places that I have MFA enabled, different credentials. So I'm following best practices, which is good, but it's a bit of a hassle.
Yeah.
And I put up with it because I know the risks. But for a regular end user, if you're a mailroom clerk or whatever, you don't care, and it's just annoying.
I mean, it does kind of bring up the conversation of how much. I think a lot of people aren't willing to put up with any kind of roadblocks or stumbling stones to their security, and which is why they always want to bypass it, figure out some way around it, just make one password that's super easy to remember, and it rules everything I do, but it makes them insecure. So I think if we can get people to buy into the idea of, you're going to have to work a little bit, but the benefits to doing that work is well worth it. So you got 50 security tokens, but it's well worth that effort because it keeps you so much more secure.
Yep.
I don't know. It's annoying to me. Like last night, I just kept getting texts every 5 minutes. Here's your code for Microsoft. I'm like, I'm not even logging on, so I don't know what's happening.
But I guess, which is funny, right?
I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, you make a joke, but it is super funny. Like, what's more annoying? Is it more annoying to fill out that 2FA token, or is it more annoying to get your data stolen? Identity
cancel
theft?
your credit cards.
Or when you switch phones and realize that the Authenticator app didn't transfer over.
Boy, that sucks,
that process was annoying for me.
That's
having to go back and go, hey, that thing I was supposed to write down, that 47 digit.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, I didn't.
I looked at that and said, "That's dumb as hell. Who's gonna do that?"
I've taken photos of them now. They're all living on my
unencrypted on a
on a USB key on his front porch.
No, I printed them out.
Yeah, he's got that Pix 500 Pix or whatever it is.
The what?
Those free websites.
Oh, the website. Oh, yeah, just throw them in there.
Yeah.
I keep all my keys in paste bin. Nobody will find it there.
An open S3 bucket. Perfect.
It's so convenient.
All right. Find these and other tips at Daniel's Security Blog.
Don'tDoThis.com.
All right.
It's a security by counter example.
Yeah. I will ridicule you into doing real security. There's the shaming your dog. It was the SNL commercial.
Oh, yeah.
All right, our next article is from bleepingcomputer.com. Windows 10 bug corrupts your hard drive on seeing this file's icon. So that means if you just have this particular thumbnail,
Oh no, my computer is seeing it.
So there is a bug in NTFS that is currently active in Windows 10 all the way back. They've tested all the way back as far as Windows XP. So this is a bug that has been around for darn near 20 years. And if you try and access a file in a particular way in the file system, it instantly corrupts your hard drive.
Yeah, I know. When you said bug, I was like, I want to think of a really good comparison in real life land. Like, this is smallpox for Windows, right?
Yeah. So when this was initially discovered, you actually had to run a command to do it. But then somebody found out, hey, I can create a shortcut file. And if I set the icon to be this location in the file system, then just having the file, when you browse and you see its icon, then it corrupts your hard drive.
You're done.
And there's no fixing it. If you reboot and try and do a recovery, you run a check disk, there's no fixing it. You end up having to format. So Bleeping Computer actually did a demonstration where they show it in action. The string is really simple. It's they show changing to a directory, and it's $I30:$bitmap. That's it. If you try and access that file, there's some strange bug in NTFS, and because it's closed source, they can't find out what that is. It's up to Microsoft to figure that out. But that's it. It corrupts your hard drive. It's amazing. The whole volume is dead.
What was really cool was as I read the article, they were talking to people about, so why does this happen? They're like, this is just crazy. I mean, it seems like we should be able to figure that out pretty easily, but all it's doing is this simple thing. But because it does that simple thing, it goes insane and decides, no, I'm done working now. I don't want to work anymore. I hope you have a good backup.
Is it just like screen goes black and that's it, or like
blue
is there
screens, I think.
blue screens?
Not right away. The first thing you get is
Oh,
a
it
little
hits you with, like,
pop-up
a
comes up
reboot.
that says, your hard drive has become corrupted. You need to run a repair.
Yeah, I get that pop up all the time.
And
Did you open that email with the attachment I sent you?
I don't know. Let me hold on, just keep getting these Microsoft tasks.
Yeah, that's the scary part about this one is really easy to trigger if somebody downloads the attachment or if you can find some way to plant it on their disk, which you don't have to be an administrator to drop a file on a hard drive. So, somebody could do that. What I would do is the old USB stick in the parking lot thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, couldn't you have like an auto open? On
You don't even need an auto open, right? So if this is just a link on the USB key,
That's all it needs.
somebody's going to plug it in to see if you left nudie pictures on there, right? And so they got their thumbnails turned on. It goes to render the thumbnail, and that's
put,
that.
you should write on the outside of it nudes.
Don's
That
OnlyFans.
thing will get plugged into someone's computer so fast.
So it does just affect Windows, and it does just affect NTFS. So it doesn't affect Linux or Mac machines, because they have different file systems they use. But yeah, if somebody were to browse to it, it's pretty significant. And Microsoft has not patched it as of the filming of this episode. It's about 4 days old. So this is not a 0 day anymore.
I
It's
thought this said at the end of the article that they had one.
I scrolled down to see if there was an update because that's where they'd put
Was
it
there?
normally, but it said that the only update
Maybe
is that it
not.
also impacts older Windows XP
Impacts Windows
versions.
XP.
Oh,
So
yeah, your host.
it's like no, it's worse. It's not getting
So-
better.
As of the filming of this episode, it has been 4 days since this exploit was publicly announced, and there is no patch.
Microsoft's just going, this sucks.
Which probably means either that this is just something that they know is never really going to happen, which I don't think is true, or this is a really weird file system bug. And it's risky anytime you change a file system, right? Because if they bork this, it could ruin people's computers all around the globe.
This is the stone in the pond, right? Everything's working now. We're just going to drop this little change to the file. Everything's broke.
yeah. I mean, it could really mess things up.
Yeah.
This could be a ploy, going back to an earlier article, to get you to move over to Windows 10X, because maybe it's not affected by this.
He uses NTFS.
Yeah. We don't know. Maybe Windows 10X is the only one immune.
Or maybe that's why it hasn't come out yet, because
Yeah.
like, this is broke too.
Yeah. We got to wait till everything breaks, and then we'll go, here's your savior, Windows 10X.
All right, so yeah, anytime I feel like we have a good Microsoft article, we have to follow up then with a second one just to even it out. So there you go.
That's how we keep the universe in check.
Don't look at files on your Windows machine between now and when this is fixed. And I wonder if like us even saying the string of code, if someone's like watching this on their computer, if it just shuts down.
Well, I mean, so true story, right? And just a caution to you, the listeners that are out there. If you're on a Windows machine and you open a command prompt and you type in what I said,
you're done.
will corrupt your hard drive and you will lose the data that's on it. I hope you have a backup because it's just not a way to recover.
I see this being like the teenagers troll, hacks where they're just like, oh yeah, I can help you. Just open your command prompt there, type this in. It should look for, corrupted files. And if you find it should
And
tell you
just
to
nails
reboot.
it.
And then they're done.
Yeah.
They'll do it.
Did you hear if you microwave your iPhone, it charges
It charges
fully in a
fast.
minute? Yeah.
Yep. And you don't need to be an administrator for this.
No.
So, just a regular user. It's a pretty scary
It's
bug.
crazy. Yeah.
Please don't microwave your iPhone and call me. Not that you could call me. Because you're
You can find Peter Van Rysdom.
Stop doxing me, man. All right.
Reach him on Parler.
Speaking of what you were just saying about tricking people with that, I saw something on Parler where they were telling people when it stopped working, all you have to do is uninstall the app and reinstall it, and all of a sudden it works again. And everyone would uninstall it and then find it's not in the App Store anymore.
Oh, yeah.
People were upset.
Yeah.
All right. Our next article is from secret.club.
Ooh.
Which I looked at this. I went from the last article to this one, and I felt like it was an alert that I've been hacked. Like it looks, this is a weird looking website, not a graphic on it.
Written by the Jonas Brothers.
Yep, Jonas L. So this one is BitLocker Lockscreen Bypass. So they obviously know how to write headlines as well. So Don, can you fill us in there with like a verb?
Honestly, it's a good headline. Like
It is.
If you have a Windows machine that's encrypted with BitLocker, which we've already been talking about, when you power on your computer, one of the first things it has to do is get a key to unlock the disk. And so it's going to either do that from the TPM or you will have to enter that in. Well, what if you've stolen the hard drive out of somebody's computer and stuck it in a different computer? When you power it on, it can't get the key. So it's going to prompt you to put in that key. So you're now at a BitLocker lock screen and you can't get past it, right? Well, this security researcher or hobbyist, or we really don't know anything about him, do we? He's the lesser known Jonas brother.
His picture is just a black circle, like is his avatar.
Yeah. So this
That's
random
called
dude,
anonymity.
Yeah.
dude or dudette, we don't really know. Well, I guess Jonas.
We can imply that it's probably.
All right. Well, whatever. So anyhow, this person managed to find a way to bypass it in what they label as 6 easy steps. This is not easy. This is not something. Well, it doesn't require special tooling. Well, a little bit.
You can tell a tech person wrote this. 6 easy steps for someone with an advanced degree. And
all right, so I'm hemming and hawing. Let's run over the steps here. So basically, you get to that lock screen and you tell it, I forgot my password, right? So there's a link where you click that, okay? Well, then it's going to take you to a special screen where you would normally be able to go through the password recovery process. Well, and this should sound familiar if you've been working with Windows security for a while, there's a slight exploit in the accessibility tools, in this case, the narrator. If you turn on the narrator by tapping the shift key a bunch of times, then it's going to activate. And the narrator is technically a running program. So BitLocker is locked to the screen, but you're now executing a program as a temporary user on the system. And that temporary user can be exploited to allow you to effectively change settings in the settings control panel. And what he showed was that without even being able to see this, because it's all in the background hidden by the lock screen, that he's able to use the narrator to tab around and enable the auto run functionality on removable media, plug in a USB key with a payload on it, it auto runs, and then he's able to use that to create an administrative user on the system and bypass BitLocker to get into it. Really a very, very significant flaw in the system. And in this case, it's tied to the accessibility features, which we've seen that before. Like, right, Daniel? I mean, I remember like 15 years ago, Mike Roderick was doing that.
Yeah, you get to use it to start things that you normally wouldn't have access to, like, hey, open a command prompt.
Yep.
And that allows you some inroad into the system, and now you can start messing with things that you normally wouldn't have that access to, and maybe, just maybe, you never know, get into the system and create yourself a user or whatever.
Now, I will say the steps, to me, not being a security professional like you are, Daniel, the steps didn't seem so bad, except for the part with the narrator. Like, he's navigating around in windows he can't see. That seems really hard.
I would assume that just comes from, like, a lot of time spent with the narrator, getting to know each other. They lived life. They did it together. They were partners. And that would give him the ability to very seamlessly work with it behind the scenes, knowing, you've worked in, anybody that's worked in a help desk, a lot of times when you don't have access to those machines, you start going from memory, like, okay, click here, you should see this, you should see that. So I'm assuming they have that level of
But in this case, like, he was hitting a drop-down menu and picking an item from the drop-down menu. But I didn't think about it until just now. He could have had a second computer sitting there.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
And just looking at the settings panel over there.
Yeah, that would make it easy.
3 times.
He was still fast,
That would make it easy. Yeah.
He was still fast.
Timing was a little bit of a factor because at one point he was like, you have to hit shift twice every second.
Yeah.
So a little bit of timing. It's not 6 easy steps, but it is a real bypass. And people wonder sometimes, like, how do the authorities get into these computers that are encrypted? Do they have backdoor keys? Well, a lot of times they're leveraging exploits like these that we may just not know about.
Yep. That's why you got them hackers working for you.
The hackers. Exactly.
It's not connected anymore.
Yeah.
But I will say I had a lot to add to that story.
You had a lot to add?
But you guys pretty much nailed everything I was going to say.
Sorry. We should have...
There we go. Now I'm connected. Let me try that again.
We heard it connect. Oops. It was kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I know I'm good. There it is.
Whenever you're done.
Yeah.
It's all on you, Holmes.
It's professional soundboard operator.
I blame the production crew. All right. Well,
you can find Peter at...
you can find me on OnlyFans. I should come up with one.
It's gonna be like that scene out of with Patrick Swayze. What's the movie we love so much? It's escaping me.
Roadhouse.
Thank you. Where he comes out,
Ghost.
His car, his car's just trashed, and the girl's like, "Your fan club." He's like, "They are devoted."
Oh, good. We're connected again.
That's what they're gonna say to you.
That's what. Yeah. I tried to
Man,
pick one that was
you
appropriate.
booed Patrick Swayze? He died.
No, I booed the people
Wow,
that
what a
messed
horrible
his car.
You're
person.
not sensitive.
Hey, did you know that there is a webinar coming up with Don Pizzette on Thursday, January 14th called Chart Your Path to a Cybersecurity Career? And it's also with Jason Blanchard from Black Hills Security, someone that we've talked about Black Hills before on the show, and you guys have played backdoors and breaches from Black Hills.
We haven't done it in a while. The pandemic makes it hard. Yeah.
It's time. Yeah, it's time. You can do that virtually, right?
Yeah,
we could. Yeah.
We did do it
because
virtually.
we made a virtual version of that. So there you go. So chart your path to a cybersecurity career. I mean, we were talking earlier about STEM and all the skills gap in cybersecurity. Great way to start here, finding out where you should start on that cybersecurity path. So check that out. It's Thursday, January 14th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Register by going to itpro.tv/webinars to find that one. And while you're on that internet, head over to go.itpro.tv/Technado, where you can get a 30% off coupon code for the lifetime of your personal plan. You can also request a team trial and find all the cool features available for teams from IT Pro TV. That's go.itpro.tv/Technado. All right. This show got a little crazy, but we survived. And thank you again to Nick for taking the time to join us from Swimlane. And thank you, gentlemen, whose names, according to the Wu-Tang generator, are Profound Conqueror, Daniel Lowry. And I looked up Don, and he is Visual Professional, visual with a Z.
Yeah.
And I hated my name, so I kept.
You kept.
I changed like Peter to Pete, and I got Pesty Desperado.
Oh, that's cool.
I kind of like that one.
I'll take that one.
Yeah.
My other one, if I was Peter Van Rysdam, was Fearless Leader, which I'm like, that's not appropriate. So
Plus, we call Tim that.
yeah, exactly. Like
That's going to get confusing.
I need to lead someone to be that. So. Anyway, thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, all of you, for joining us, and we will see you next week right here on Technado with Don Pizzette.